I was looking on Craigslist for something to do to make a little extra cash. The budget's been a bit tight lately, ever since I lost my part-time job down at the pharmacy. I've been doing just about everything I can to make a buck here and there lately. Mowing lawns, washing cars, doing just about every sort of generic odd job you can imagine. I'd find most of these jobs on Craigslist. I put up some ads of my own to try and attract customers, but I found myself hunting them down most of the time instead. Oftentimes, the people I'd work for would offer me below what I'd usually shoot for. Say they'd offer me $10 to wash their car instead of the $20 I'd usually ask for. But every once in a while, I'd get a real generous fellow. Usually, a senile old man who doesn't know any better. Though that could go in the opposite direction for me as well. One day, he's handing me a $50 bill. The next, he's handing me a $5 Monopoly buck. Just depends on my luck. I was scrolling through the pet subsection of the services portion of the site. I know some people advertise their pet sitting businesses on there, and so I thought I'd join the herd like the sheeple I am. I mean, when you're working dollar to dollar like I am, you don't have the luxury of being the wolf. You've got to do what you gotta do to make it, even if that means saying, "Yes, sir," and "Yes, ma'am," like it's a fucking mantra. Gotta listen, gotta obey, gotta do what you gotta do to get by. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nothing weaker than a powerless wolf. So anyways, I was clicking around from post to post to see if there were any jobs I could snag. I was just off a string of duds when I clicked on a rather bizarre advertisement. The title read, "Pet Sit Son Saturday Night, $500 up front," in all caps. $500 fucking dollars? Is this guy serious? I instantly clicked on the thread, leading me to read the details. I need a good, caring man to watch over my precious boy while I'm out for the night. He just needs his water bowl replaced twice every 5 hours, and he needs checked on once an hour. No harder than watching a ferret. Pays up front $500 with an extra $75 if the boy likes ya. Below that was his contact information. It wasn't until reading over the title again that I picked up on the other glaring detail besides the ridiculously high price. It says pet sit son, not pet sit dog or pet sit cat, or fucking anything you would conceivably call a pet. Then again, maybe he's just one of those weirdos who acts like the mutt they picked up at the pound last Tuesday is their loin fruit. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Well, with that in mind, how could I turn down such a ludicrous offer? I mean, $500 will pay my rent and cover food for the month. I'd usually have to work all month for the amount of money I can make in a single night. I hit up the number listed at the bottom of the page and was greeted by a burly voice. "Howdy," the voice croaked. "Hi, I saw your ad on Craigslist for the pet sitter. My name's John, and I'm interested in the job." "Oh yes," he said, overenthusiastically. "I was hoping someone would call. I've had that ad up for weeks." I looked over at my computer monitor and saw that the ad had been posted about 2 hours ago. I don't really know why this guy would lie about something like that, but I wasn't in a position to point that out. In fact, I was in the position to go out of my way to not point that out so I can get that $500 in my pocket ASAP. "Oh, yeah?" I said, trying to fake a genuine tone of voice. "Well, it sure is a great deal, and I'd love to work for you." "Well, you know, Rocky's a bit of a picky kid, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So I think it'd be best if you came down and met the little guy. I'm sure he'd be fine with you, but I'd feel better knowing for sure." "Okay, well, that sounds fine," I mumbled, and then asked, "Say, how old is he? About 2 or 3? "Oh god, no, he's about 10, the man spit out. "You think a 2-year-old is gonna make up its mind about you?" We're talking about your dog, right? I asked, genuinely confused and kind of frustrated at this point. We're not talking about my dog. That little bastard's coming with me. We're talking about Rocky. The old man said, as if I was the delusional fuck. Listen, come down to my place tomorrow around 2ish. I'll make some brownies and it'll be the perfect time to meet the boy, okay? I agreed, and we hung up. The drive there was rather mundane, out in the woods about 30 miles or so. I'd never been down that road before. I think it was Maple Bay Road or Marble Bay or something like that. All I know is that I ended up in front of this 2-story house in the middle of the woods. It looked pretty nice, or at least like it had in the past. The large pillars supporting the second story you walk between to get to the front door had paint chipping off of it from all angles, and I was pretty sure a room on the top floor had its window shattered. I lifted my hand to knock on the front door a few times to alert the man, whose name I, surprisingly, still hadn't picked up on, that I was there. But by the time I was heading in for the second knock, the door flung open, and I got a, "Howdy, Johnny, you made it back here. Was a little worried you'd drive off into the bog. You are John, right?" The man, who looked exactly as he sounded, said. He was short and round, sporting a bushy, unkempt beard and eyes that bugged out of his head so far you'd have thought they might pop out on his next sneeze. He was wearing a stained old jean jacket, buttoned up from the outside with no signs of an undershirt. His pants were blue jeans, patched up to the point where I couldn't even tell what parts were the patches and what were the original pants. I looked down at the man and said, "Yeah, that's right. It's nice to meet you. And I'm sorry to ask, but I think I missed your name." As soon as I finished the sentence, he broke eye contact and turned around. "Alrighty then," he said, waving me inside from behind. "You come on in here and take those shoes off beside the stove." I looked over after following the man inside to see a full kitchen-sized stove sitting right beside the front door. It looked older too, with legs you'd only expect to see on a chair you'd find down at Ashley furniture stores these days. I noticed a pair of handcuffs connected to the leg farthest from me, with the outward-facing cuff laying open. The sight sent an immediate shiver down my spine, though I wasn't sure why. Nothing overtly shiver-worthy had happened yet, I suppose, but everything I had bared witness to so far had just been so weird. After no acknowledgement of the handcuffs lying on the ground connected to the stove, I slipped my Nikes off and sat them by the kitchen appliance. The place looked rather empty, with nothing more than a couple chairs and a coffee table in the living room. The man sat down in what I could only assume to be his favorite chair, and pointed to the spare in what I can only assume was supposed to be a warm and welcoming gesture, though it came out to be distant and awkward. I sat down, and the man who from here on out I'll be referring to as Burley said, "Man, oh man, I bet you're hungry. How'd you like some peanut brownies?" "I'm actually allergic to peanuts, but thanks for the offer though. That was very thoughtful of you." "Well, if the peanuts are the problem, I can have Rocky pick them out for you. You need to meet the little sucker anyway. Hey Rocky, come on out here, bud. Someone's here to see ya," Burley yelled, apparently summoning his pet. That's not really how it works. I can't eat those brownies if they were baked with peanuts, but I really do appreciate it. It's no big deal. I ate earlier today anyways before I came by. That was a lie, but I wanted to try and ease the situation as best I could. Completely ignoring what I said, Burley leaned in with a smirk and said, "Rocky'll be out here in a minute. Don't you worry." Was this guy insane? What the hell was wrong with him? I was starting to get even more weirded out when I looked over into the corner of the room to see an old Windows 98 computer and monitor sitting on the floor with a keyboard and mouse plugged into it. Why was it just sitting on the ground like that? They couldn't afford $15 even for some cheap TV dinner tray or something? For being able to live in a house like this, they're really not doing so well. Burley looked at his watch nervously multiple times over the next few minutes, each time looking more concerned than the last. Finally, Burley stood up. "Okay, Rocky, you better have a good fucking excuse this time, boy," he bellowed. He made eye contact with me and tilted his head back, directing me to go with him. I followed him down the hall to a room with the letters ROCKI written on the door in what I assume was silver Sharpie. Burley pounded on the door furiously and began to shout the longer he went without being answered. "Rocky! You open this goddamn door right now, mister! I'm warning you!" he screamed. After pounding furiously, like he was about to break down the door for at least a couple minutes, he stopped dead in his tracks. He put his hand down, and his face relaxed. He looked over at me, looking like he just received the most relaxing massage this side of the Mississippi. He giggled. Well, well, well. You want to open the door, Johnny, my boy? I felt so swept up in the ridiculousness of the situation by this point that I did so without even thinking. And what choice did I have? I'm a sheep, remember? And apparently, Burley's a fucking king among wolves. I leaned in and grabbed the doorknob, twisting it ever so slightly, just enough to hear the click as the metal bar pulls back, allowing me to open the door. I peered into the room for a moment, numb to what I was looking at. It wasn't a dog or a cat or anything that would belong in the pet section on Craigslist. What I saw was a boy, or what looked rather remarkably boy-like. He was incredibly skinny, to the point where bone shows through pretty much anywhere you look, but the thin stubble on his face told me he was at least 18 years old. He was sitting on his knees, wearing a sagging diaper filled with God knows what, and his feet were encased in large bowling ball-esque contraptions, linked together with a 6-inch chain. His head was crudely shaved, with patches of uneven hair littering his scalp. He looked physically beaten, bruised, and malnourished. The bags under his eyes seemed to go on forever, and looking into his deep, dark pupils made me feel as though I was staring into the eyes of a hopelessly broken man. He had a leather mask on that covered only his mouth, with straps wrapping around and under his cheekbones and throat. In the middle of the leather strip that covered his mouth was a 10-inch solid black straw sticking out of the center. Off to the side of the room sat a bowl with the same silver Sharpie Rocky signed onto it. I imagine that's where he goes to drink. On the floor in front of him sat an unlocked pair of handcuffs. Although I'm not sure if that's what I should call them, really. They were like what he had on his feet, big round spheres that would apparently enclose his hands. He was shaking as he made eye contact with me, but damn near developed Parkinson's after making eye contact with Burley. Shocked and horrified, I looked over at Burley, who shared only a vaguely similar look. The look on his face was more of surprise and hurt. "Rocky," he said, looking down at his boy. "You're never supposed to take the fun gloves off. We had a deal, mister, and you know what's gonna happen next." Burley's tone changed from hurt to sadistically vengeful near the end. Looking over at Rocky, I saw a tear begin to fall from his eye. He looked mortified, panicked, and hopeless. I looked one more time back up at Burley to see him still lost in emotion with his apparent pet, Rocky, and then I ran the fuck out of there. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't processing, I wasn't planning, I was just doing. I wasn't following orders though, so maybe that makes me a little less of a sheep than I once thought I was. I mean, compared to Rocky, I think I'm about as wolf-like as you can get. After getting to my car and darting back onto the road towards town, I started to think about what had just transpired. It was weird at the very least, and horrifyingly awful at the very worst. I mean, maybe they were just engaging in some rather obscure play activities, sure. That wouldn't be outside the realm of possibilities whatsoever. But if that were the case, I don't think Rocky would have removed one of his many restraints against Burley's wishes. And I don't think he would have looked so petrified after being caught doing so. Due to my fear around cops, I decided to send in an anonymous tip to the police about Burley's funhouse through some obscure website I found. I hope they got it, and I hope they take it seriously. Because I've been seeing the face of that Rocky guy in my mind's eye every night as I drift off to sleep for the past 2 weeks. If that shit doesn't go away soon, I think I'm going to have to go talk to someone. Because this can't go on as it is. I'm too tired and have too much shit to deal with in my life right now to get wrapped up in some bizarre case I don't even know how to begin to describe. If I ever get any new information, I'll let you guys know, but for now, I'm going to try to forget about Burley's pet and get some sleep. You guys keep on the lookout for any weird news stories pertaining to this as well. I know I will. And if you hear it from the news first, rest assured you'll be hearing from me soon after. Because if I did bear witness to a legitimate crime, I'm not going to let this go. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments below, and tell me what you thought of this narration. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for updates, and if you'd like to get early videos, shoutouts, and much more, I'd appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. It's a place where you can help support my channel while getting awesome rewards in the process, and every pledge helps out a ton, no matter the size. So if you'd like to see all the rewards I offer and consider becoming a patron, it'd mean a ton to me if you'd click the link in the description and just check it out. And don't forget to show some love to the amazingly talented authors who make these narrations possible. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.